Hi again, everybody. My name is Greg Anderson, and this is the Good Timekeeping Show with Greg Anderson. And today I want to talk about this watch right here. This is a fire package release from Casio. Every year, for the last several years, they've released what they call the fire package. And usually this is a pair of watches. One time it was 4 watches, but a pair of watches that kind of share a similar color scheme. And like these two right here. And the whole point of the fire package is simply to honor those people that live life with a spirit of adventure, gusto. I suppose if I understood Japan, the culture and the language better, I would understand why fire package seems to evoke those things. But so yeah, if you are a spirited adventurer kind of person, you may honor yourself by wearing fire package watches. They cost a little bit more than kind of the standard version of these same watches that might use the same module with a different color scheme, but they also come in a fancy little box. Now, normally I would not show you an unboxing video. As far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't want to watch you open up a package unless it was a present I gave you and I knew you. But other than that, if there's no special trick to taking one of these things out of the box, I don't need to show you that. But here's the box that you would receive. Here's what's inside of it. And this is, this cute little case that looks like something that a Barbie doll would use for luggage, right? And so the watch comes in this. Now, I think that's neat that it's a nice little case that says G-Shock on it, and that's all fun and whatever. But generally speaking, I don't keep my watches in little individual cases like this. So I don't even have that much use for a case like this. I will give it to my kids and they can play with their dolls and pretend, Barbie's going on an ocean voyage and needs, to put her luggage in a big case like this. But so that's the case you get. And here's some instructions in Japanese because the fire package releases are usually Japan only. But, through eBay and Amazon and some other sources, you can get some international stuff. So that's the packaging. It's a little bit special. And that's all I'm going to show you that would look anything like an unboxing video. Okay, so here are the watches. I bought this one several months ago because I found a place where the price seemed like a good deal. Typically, if you bought just the plain Jane version of this, you could get it for under $100 probably. I don't know, prices have been all over the place lately. But I got one a long time ago for under $100. So you'd pay more than that for a special, fire package version of the watch with that fancy little box. But I found what I thought was a reasonably good deal. I wouldn't want to pay like double the price of the standard color version of this. It's the same module and all that stuff. So, it kind of bugs me the idea of paying a lot more for just a color variation. So, but I got this a while ago. I found a pretty good deal. So this is the GW2320SF fire package watch for 2022, which I realize it's a year later than that. And they've already announced the new color scheme for the 2023 fire package watches. And here I am still with the rose gold versions of 2022. So just the other day, I decided, hey, if I'm ever going to get this, I found what I thought was a reasonably good deal, and it was like $166 at Amazon. So I bought this. It was shipped from Japan. So this is the other part of the pair. This is the fire package watch for 2022, which I bought, a year after it was first announced. This is a model AWG-M100, and it uses the module 5230, which I already have almost 24 watches with that same module, and I really like them. So just a little bit of a color variation. I would call this rose gold or copper color, not bad. So yeah, now I've got the two that go together. Now, since I have so many of these watches already that use the same module and are basically the same thing, there is no learning curve whatsoever for me to get used to using this watch. So it came out of the package just a few hours ago at a medium charge, and that's expected. It's been in the dark. I can tell you that like the other watches, and in case you haven't seen my other videos about the other watches, I can review some of the functions and features of this watch here. So it is a tough solar watch, which means it has a solar cell built into the face of the watch, and that is what keeps that battery topped off. So low, medium, or high on the battery charge state there, and this one is showing medium because it's been in the dark. It's been in that little case for probably about a year. So if I just expose this to normal everyday lighting conditions, it'll probably jump back up to the high charge and it will probably remain at a high charge for a long, long time with exposure to just everyday lighting conditions. Now, if it gets to the low charge, then some of the functions start to go away until you charge it up. But if it's at medium or high, you get all the functions available. And let me tell you about some of those other functions here. Right up there, you might be able to see that says Multiband 6. Multiband 6 means there's a built-in radio receiver inside this watch, and it will automatically receive atomic time information from one of 6 transmitters in different parts of the world. So there's one in China, there are 2 in Japan, there's also one in the UK and one in Germany, and then of course here in the United States there's WWVB, which services I guess all of North America really, to unless you're really in the fringes, out there near the North Pole or something. This will be able to receive atomic time information and set itself to the right time right down to the second, and keep itself set correctly indefinitely. So with the tough solar power source, charging up its battery using the solar cell right there, this is said to go well more than a decade. And depending on how well you take care of that, I don't know. My oldest tough solar watch right now, this year will be 17 years old since I bought it. So 17 years without ever having to replace a battery. That's what I've had so far on a different model of G-Shock Tough Solar watch. So perhaps I can expect similar results from this one. 17 years or more without ever having to change a battery. Not bad. And then with Multiband 6, you don't even have to update the time, because every night at midnight, this will turn on its receiver and start to receive that radio signal with the atomic time data and set itself to the right time, right down to the second. If it's not successful at midnight after, it'll try for a few minutes, maybe 5, maybe even almost 10 minutes if it needs to. If it's not successful, it will try again 1 hour later. And if that's not successful, it'll do it again the hour after that. As soon as it is successful, it'll stop trying to receive until the next night at midnight. But if it's not successful, it's going to try up to 6 times overnight. Atomic time reception with that Multiband 6 stuff is best at night. So you want to put it in a place where you don't have a lot of radio interference. You don't want to have this like right next to your computer monitor or something like that, because that can cause some radio interference. But if you got it in a good spot in the house without a lot of radio interference and get good reception, then it should just set itself every night, and it will never be wrong by more than just a fraction of a second. And that's pretty cool. Other functions and features on this watch include, of course, a 200-meter water resistance and all that G-Shock toughness for shock resistance, so that's great right there. If I go to the next mode here, this is my regular timekeeping mode. Well, before I do that, right up there, that's the digital time of day, just my home time right there, and that matches what the analog hands are showing. Or if I tap that adjust button, I can have the date, month, and day of the month right there. And then down there, you're always going to see the seconds display. And then also, of course, you got the battery state right there. Up here, it shows you a few things like whether or not daylight saving time is on display right here, whether or not the automatic backlight has been enabled right here, whether or not an alarm is set to go or the hourly signal is set to go. Here, whether or not the watch is in mute mode or beep mode, and I'll show you that in a moment. And here's a little thing that indicates when the analog hands are moved out of the way so that they're not blocking the view of these LCD windows here. But I'll get into all that in a moment. So let's just change modes here with the mode button. This is the world time mode, and you can select some other time zone. It'll show you that time zone right here. Well, in that digital display, while still showing you the local time on the analog hands. Now you can choose a different time zone by pushing this forward button down here. It's as though I'm going eastward on the map, and you can see as I move eastward, that time right there is adjusting accordingly. And you can only go one direction there, but if you get lost as you're scrolling around the map there, you can press these 2 buttons together right here at the same time, and that'll buzz you right back to UTC instantly. Maybe you want to swap your local time with your world time because you're the kind of traveler that is, continually going from one time zone and back and forth maybe. So what you do is you tap both of these top buttons at the same time, and that will quickly swap your local time with your world time. So right now it's telling me Denver, or the mountain time zone in the United States, is now my world time. And that's what time it is here in the mountain time zone. And those analog hands are going to race around to show me UTC right now. So that's a quick way to do a quick swap between local time and world time. And there it is. Okay, all done. But I'm going to move it back to my regular local time. And in the meantime, let's go to the next mode, which is the stopwatch mode. And so this will go minutes, seconds, and hundredths of a second if I start right there. And so pretty easy to see that. And then you got split time, which is this one right here. So split time there. And then, of course, you can stop the stopwatch and you can reset the stopwatch with there. It'll go for 1 hour. And if you don't stop it, it will just reset to 0 and keep on going. So that's how the stopwatch works. The next mode is the countdown timer, and you can set that for minutes and seconds, all the way from 1 second to 100 minutes. So if you were to set this to, just do this real quick. And the setting is very similar to what you're used to on lots of quartz watches that have stopwatches and countdown timers. The basic way to use them is going to be very intuitive for you. So if it's all zeros and I start that, it's an actual 100-minute countdown timer. So it's going to count down, from 99.59 down to 0. Starting at 100 minutes. So I've got that, or any combination of minutes and seconds, from 1 second all the way up to that 100-minute countdown timer. So once it stops, it'll just beep and stop. It's not a repeating countdown timer. So let me stop that and reset it right there. And you know what? I'm going to set this to, just because my kind of default timer for most of the stuff that I actually use, it will be 30 minutes. So I'm going to set that up. Not necessarily for you to see in the video, but just for me. Next time I use this, I'm probably going to want the 30-minute countdown timer. Okay, next we have alarms here. So there are actually 5 alarms here, and right now they're just on default. So, set for midnight, but you can scroll through those different alarms right here, all 5 of them. And then there's the hourly signal. And so when that's on, you see it says on right down there. And also right now the alarm is not activated, but if I tap that, it shows that it's on. And also it kind of lights up that, that little segment there showing the alarm. At least one alarm is set to go when you see that segment there under the ALM. Now you're noticing right now that the analog hands are kind of getting in the way of my LCD windows. What am I going to do? Well, if you want to make them go out of the way, just temporarily, what you can do is you can press and hold this mode button, and you saw maybe the word hands sort of flash there, and right there's a little flashing indicator next to the word hands. So what that did is it parked the hands out of the way. So those hands are not going to move and they're not going to show the correct time right now, but at least they're parked out of the way so that I can see these windows as I'm trying to set things up. That could be useful in the stopwatch mode, so you have your hundredths of a second going down there, or if you just want to see what's in this window and something's in the way, or maybe those hands could be in the way of that window or that window there. But right now they're just going to park and stay out of the way. And if I don't touch the watch, don't do anything for about an hour, then the hands will automatically go back to the normal time and start keeping time normally again. Or if I say, well, I'm all done now, I don't care if the hands cover these windows now, I could just, again, press and hold that mode button and undo that hands thing, and now it goes back to just normal time. How's that? Now, if I go to the next mode, this is, I'm back to the regular timekeeping mode. So those are all my modes. So once again, world time, the stopwatch, countdown timer, and any of those alarms or the hourly signal. So there you go. Now, if this were my watch that I was setting up for the very first time and I didn't know how to do it, let me show you how to set this up. So from your regular timekeeping mode, press and hold that adjustment button until things start to blink. So right now, this is where you would set your home time zone. So for me, again, it's going to be named after a major city in my time zone, Denver being for the mountain time zone. And if I want to move eastward on the map, I press this forward button down here, and it'll show me the time for these other places. Or in this mode, I can actually go backwards or westward on the map using that reverse button. So if I say, well, let's pretend I'm in Los Angeles now, and see if I go back to now regular timekeeping. Now it's going to take me back an hour, and the analog hands will automatically adjust to match what the time would be in Los Angeles. So again, I'll go back to the adjust screen, take it back here to Mountain Time Zone. And the hands, you notice, are automatically parked out of the way while I'm doing this. Now, this is where I can adjust for daylight saving time. I can tell the watch to automatically show daylight saving time, or say that daylight saving time is always off or always on. So I've got those options there. I'll keep it automatic because in my time zone, we do have daylight saving time still. And so I'll keep that automatically changing according to what it receives from Multiband 6. Okay, next is here I can have a 24-hour or 12-hour display here in the digital stuff. So I can adjust that right there. Next, I have the ability to manually adjust the time and date. So I could reset the seconds here, or I could change the hours and minutes. I could change the year, the month, and the date, and manually set those to something other than what it's set to right now. Now, if I do set it to something that's not a match to atomic time, then the next time Multiband 6 kicks in and successfully receives atomic time information, it's going to overwrite my manual setting on the date and the local time with whatever it receives. But I do have that ability to manually set it in case there was some problem with reception, or I just want to have it set to a different time. Then here's the key thing. So what this means is almost every time I press a button, it's going to make a little bit of a beep. Or like when I start and stop a stopwatch, it's going to beep. It's going to beep when I change modes. But I could mute that if I just say mute right there. So, and then it indicates mute there, and it has the word mute there. So now it's not going to make a sound every time I push a button. It will continue to make sounds at the end of a countdown timer, or the hourly signal. If that's activated, it will make that sound even in mute mode. And those alarms, they're still going to make a sound even in mute mode, but it's just going to reduce some of the other sounds made compared to when it's in key mode or, mute mode. So maybe I'll leave it in mute mode. No, I'll leave it in key mode. Who cares? All right. So, and then the backlight can either go for 1.5 seconds or 3 seconds, and that's where you make that adjustment right there. I kind of like the 3-second thing. The only reason really to reduce the duration of the backlight would be maybe if you're worried about draining the battery too much by using the backlight a lot. But since it's solar powered, I'm not that worried about the battery. So I'll leave it on the long duration there. And here's power save. That's a function that you have on this watch, which basically means that at night, the solar cell acts as kind of a light sensor. So when the watch is in the dark, then the watch knows it's in the dark. And when you're not wearing it, it's not moving. The watch knows it's not moving. So when the watch knows it's dark and it's not moving, it thinks nobody's wearing this watch right now. So what it does after 10 p.m., after about an hour, if there's nothing going on and the watch is in the dark, power save means the LCDs are going to go, they're going to go blank to save a little bit of power. And you can take it off of that kind of sleep mode and revive those LCDs by simply exposing the watch to a good bright light source, or press any button, or just kind of shake it, and that will take it out of that sleep mode. But power save is an option there. If for some reason you leave this watch in the dark continuously for about a week, then the hands will stop at the straight up 12 o'clock position, and they will rest there also as a way to save power. And I think it'll also, I think the alarms will stop beeping, and it might even stop receiving Multiband 6 after a week of this watch thinking that it's in the dark, not being used for a whole week. And again, you can just take it out of that sleep state by simply exposing it to light, push any button, or shake it around a little bit. So, and those are all the settings right there. Now, I need to show you just a couple more things. First of all, I told you about Multiband 6 automatically tries to receive atomic time information every night at midnight. But if you want to initialize reception manually at any time, what you do is you press and hold this forward. But you start in the regular timekeeping mode here. Press and hold this forward button, and then it says RC. So it's trying to receive the the radio control information right here. So as I turn on that receiver to manually initialize that radio reception, you can see that it's giving me the reception indicator right there for L1, L2, or L3 reception. L1, L2 probably not good enough to set itself. If I can sustain L3 for a few minutes, that's enough to have it set itself. But as you can see, it's giving me an error there saying, you know what, I tried, but you've got so much stuff running right now. There's a monitor nearby. There's some fluorescent lights. There's a bunch of stuff that would be causing radio interference. But this did work overnight. And let me just show you, if you're back at regular timekeeping mode right here, and if I, instead of holding this forward button down, if I just tap it, it says get. And it's showing today's date and 12:04, that's just 4 minutes after midnight. So what it's telling me is that just a few hours ago, just after midnight, this was able to get the radio reception and set itself. So that's kind of nice if you're curious, how long has this thing been going since the last time it was able to receive? That's an easy way for it to show you right there. And as you can see, it was just earlier today that it did work when it was at night and everything was calm in the house and not a lot of things were running. And so anyway, that's how that works. All right, so there's all the main functions and features. You can see it's a pretty straightforward watch. It has this case back right there, which is kind of a little stamped piece of metal with 4 little screws holding that on. You know, with any luck, again, you probably won't have to take that case back off for a long time, but that's how that's held together. I obviously already knew I was going to like this watch because I already have a bunch of variations on the same thing. These right here are larger versions. They operate the same way, but they actually have a different module. So I guess I shouldn't count those among the collection of AWG-M100 watches. But as you can see there, I still have 17 of those. And then here's like a fire package pair from earlier. This is, you know, the 2022 fire package, and then this one kind of matches that plain Jane version of the AWG-M100. So they're all together there, which means I don't really have a place to put this one. Maybe I'll have to take, because these are not analog, so maybe I'll have to kind of rearrange and take some of those out. But I kind of like having the, you know, the fire package watches kind of together. What am I going to do? I don't know. I might have to put the watch back in this case. Oh no. All right. We'll see how that goes. But I'll just show you here. This one, again, is the AWG-M100 Module 5230. These right here, these larger ones, variations of the GAW100, and the metal one is a G-Steel watch, GST-W110D. And these all have the same module. It's module 5444. For the most part, these modules operate exactly the same way. This one has a little bit better backlight on the LCD windows, but it's just larger and in some ways, you know, attractive in its own right. But all the same functions and features on these watches, so that's fun here. And this one, I had a little fun with this one. This one came with, you know, just kind of the plain resin band like that, and I was able to find out of watchway.co.uk a bracelet, a genuine Casio bracelet made just for the AWG-M100 watches, and I was able to make that replacement and use a bracelet on this watch. So I've got a few of them with bracelets. I need to release a video. I tried to make a video while I was putting the bracelet on this one, and it was a real hassle this time around. I don't know, just you gotta get spring bars way deep in there, and it's just kind of, it was hard, but I did it. So I may or may not decide to put a bracelet on this one. I like the bracelets. They're a little bit hard to deal with, but you know, I guess after fiddling with it for a half hour, 45 minutes, it's done. So I don't have to worry about it anymore. I do like the bracelets. They cost, you know, for me, about $100 just for the bracelet, but it does give it a different look and feel that I like. I should talk about the backlight, and I'll admit it's not a great backlight. I'm really not that big of a fan of this backlight, but that gives you kind of an idea of what it is. It's a little LED that just pops up down there about the 6 o'clock position and kind of shines up across the top of the watch face. It doesn't do much for the LCDs, so you're not going to see those very well using that backlight. And with a dark face like this, even this is not going to be a very effective backlight. So I'm not, not a fan of the backlight, but on the other hand, I really don't use it that much. If I think I'm going to be in the dark, maybe I'll just wear another watch. I've got like a G-Shock Square that has a better backlight if I'm really expecting to be in the dark. But there is an automatic backlight feature. What you do, that's your backlight button is this reverse button right here when you're in timekeeping mode. If I press and hold that button for just a couple seconds, then I see that LT lit up there. And that means it has a sensor so that when you turn it like that up towards yourself and when it's dark enough, then that backlight comes on for either 1.5 or 3 seconds, depending on what duration you have selected. And so it won't happen if there's too much light around, but if it's dark enough, you get that automatic backlight. And again, somewhat effective, somewhat not effective. And that's about it. I really don't know what else to say about this watch. Obviously, I've made other videos. You don't have to watch those videos, but if you want to look at them, just a few more in-depth looks at what the other watches look like if you're interested in this particular one. Oh, I should show you. It's shockbase.org. I looked it up. Okay, so out of these watches that have this same module, 5230, over the years, they have released 63 distinct versions of this watch. If you count this year's fire package version of the AWG-M100, which they say is a Champaign Gold. So if you're looking for that one, it'll be fresh on the market, probably in Japan right about now. So you look and see what the prices are over there. Maybe you can buy it through eBay or some of these other some of these watch vendors that are in Japan that will send to the USA or wherever you happen to be. So look for that if you really want it. I figured this was my last chance to get the 2022 fire package watch, and the price wasn't too bad, so that's why I picked this one up. And of course, I really like this design of watch, so having a few different colors, it's kind of like, to me, like if I really like a certain kind of shirt, I might buy that shirt in a few different colors and decide which shirt to wear on a given day. That's kind of how I am with these watches. Just such a favorite of mine as far as analog G-Shocks go. So if you're interested in the AWG-M100, there are, again, 63 versions out there. Now, they're not all going to be available right now, but maybe check eBay if there's some rare color you're looking for. If you are interested in the larger one with the module 5444, looks like there have been 28 distinct versions of that one available at one time or another. I only have 4 of them, and that's okay. I tend to go with the positive display rather than the negative LCDs anyway, but hey, they're all fun, and I enjoy them all. So take a look at what you want, and I hope you have fun finding it and enjoying it once you already have it. And that's all for now. I hope you'll join me again soon for another episode of the Good Timekeeping Show.